Welcome to Bite-Size Networking. Guys, today we're going to be doing a video about Microsoft Excel. So what I want to do with this video, this will be an introduction for beginners, part 1. We're going to have a look at the basics of Excel, and then from here on in, we'll build on the knowledge and the foundation that we've set. If you are interested in following the series, please be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you can be notified of the future videos as they're released. And please feel free to give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down and comment. Any feedback will be much appreciated, taken into account, and future videos will definitely be shaped and evolve according to the feedback we get. So let's get to it. Okay, so just briefly, you'll see on the screen now what the Excel icon basically looks like, and over the past 20 years it really hasn't changed that much at all. So if you search Windows for Microsoft Excel, Excel, Office, whichever you prefer, keep an eye out for an icon that looks something like this, a green workbook with an X on it. Then just to run over some of the basic terminology that you'll need to be familiar with, just to understand what we're talking about when we're going through these videos. First of all, File, Home, Insert. These options at the top of the page here, these we will refer to as tabs, the tab at the top. Okay. Now when you click a tab, Insert for example, a whole lot of options that are available within the Insert tab will be displayed across the top of the page. This we call the ribbon. So we're clicking on the Insert tab and we're seeing the Insert ribbon and all the options on it. Then what you'll also notice in some cases, you'll see a little diagonal down pointing arrow here. This we call the Launch button. So that basically tells you that there's more options available underneath that specific task. Obviously, because of limited real estate, they can't display everything on the ribbon. So in cases where you can drill down more or there are more options available, you will see these little launch buttons. And then just quickly looking at the work area itself, we do have columns, which is from top to bottom. We have rows, which run from left to right. And then when we're talking about a specific block on the page itself, we refer to that as a cell. Okay, then if you move your eyes towards the bottom of the page, you will see that there is sheet 1. Look, if you've just opened a blank document, you'll see only sheet 1. Then there is that little plus sign you can use to add sheets. So each one of those sheets we refer to as a sheet or a worksheet. And then collectively, all the sheets or worksheets within an Excel document we refer to as the workbook. All right, now that we've covered these basic terminologies, I think let's jump in and see what we can do in Microsoft Excel. Here we are. So let me show you. You can currently see that we have cell A1 highlighted. Now, if you want to move to the next cell, meaning the one on the right, B1, what you'll do is use the tab key. So tab will move your selection from left to right. And if you then hold down shift and press tab, it will move it in the opposite direction, so from right to left. So if you're typing values in and you want to type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from left to right, you can use the tab button 1 tab, 2 tab, 3 tab, 4 tab, 5 tab. Okay, I think you guys get the gist of that. And then if you want to move from top to bottom, you would then use the enter key. So 1 enter, 2 enter, 3 enter, 4 enter, 5 enter. And the same as with the tab function moving from left to right, if you want to go from bottom to top, you hold down the shift key and use enter. All right. So that's basically how you would move your selected cell in Excel from left to right, from top to bottom, and vice versa. All right, so I think let's create a table of employees that work for Bite-Size Networking and just add in maybe a list of 5 or 10 employees and see how we can manipulate the data, how we can make it look nice, adjust column widths, row widths, and those types of things. So first and foremost, let's enter a heading for our sheet or our table at the top here. So we'll call this Bite-Size Networking Employees. Okay. And then what data do we want to record from our employees? We would want their name, we would want their surname, we would want their gender, we'd want to know which department they work in, what is their job title, and which branch do they work at. So we've made good headway here, but a couple of things to note. First of all, our heading, we would want it to be a little bit bigger than the rest and maybe in the middle of the page. So a good way to achieve that is if we select all these cells across the width of all the columns that we've put headings in. If you click on the Home tab, There is an option in the ribbon called Merge and Center. This is quite a useful one when working with a heading on a table. So if we click that, what Merge does is it takes these 6 cells and it creates one cell out of the 6, and the text is then centered in that cell. Okay, we can then maybe make this a little bit bigger. And the nice thing with Excel is as you hover over the different text sizes, it'll give you a preview, a live preview of what that looks like. So you can kind of see where you want it. That looks good. And we can make it bold and also italicize. All right, next thing. We have the column headings here. Maybe we can leave the font and the size as is, maybe just make it bold. So when editing text, as you saw in the previous step, you select the cell and the options are all available here. But you can also select multiple cells at the same time, and we can make all of them bold with one click. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, let's enter 5 employees in here, and then we can continue to format our table and look at how we can make it just the way we want it to be. Okay, so I've managed to enter 5 employees in with their gender, department, job title, and branch that they work at. So what you'd notice first and foremost, some of the data that we've entered is a little bit too long for the current column width that we have. So there's a few approaches we can take here. First of all, if we look at column A here, if we double click between column A and column B, when you see this little double arrow appear, it will auto adjust the width. So it'll make it as big as it has to be only. You see, all the text in that column will be visible, but it won't use up any additional space. And the same we can do for this one. See, it adjusted it slightly so that the word Goncalves is available there. Another way that we can do this is if we select all of these columns, we can then double click on any one of the lines between 2 of the columns, and it'll adjust all of the columns. There we go. So we can now see that all the data in all the columns is visible, but we haven't used up any additional width that we didn't absolutely have to. All right. Important to note that exactly what I've showed you with adjusting the column widths applies to row height as well. You could double click on the row height there. It will then adjust it to exactly what it needs to be without wasting any space. You can also select multiple and do the same. You can also select multiple and drag it to a specific width, and it'll adjust all those row heights or column widths. So yeah, there's quite a few ways that you can approach column widths and row heights. But that being said, you kind of want to make sure everything is visible, but you don't want to be using more space than you need to. What we can do, if you look at the Home tab and then the ribbon over here, you'll see this little borders launch button here. There's quite a few options here that can really help you give good outlines and borders and columns and things on your table to really give it a professional look. So what I like to normally do at a minimum is have my column headings with a thick border around them. Just helps me identify where the headings are and where the data starts. Okay, we can also maybe italicize these. There we go. All right. Another interesting thing that you can do is apply something called filters to the document. Now, we do have quite a small sample size of data here, but I'll still be able to demonstrate how this works. If I select the third row, which is where my column headings are, and I go to the Data tab at the top, there's a filter option here. If I click Filter, you'll see these arrows appear alongside all of my column headings. Now what this allows you to do, and as I said, it becomes very useful when you're working with large amounts of data, but if I wanted to see all the male employees, for example, I could click Gender, and I could select only male, and I'll then see only my male employees. I can then further filter and say, okay, I want to see all my male employees that work at the Joburg branch, and there they are. Okay, so this filtering can really be useful when you're working with bigger sample sizes of data. databases especially, and things like that. So filter option is really good. To remove it, it's much the same. You select the row and hit the filter button in the ribbon there. The filters will then be gone. Point to note, it's always advisable to be careful that you're not working with a filter applied and you're not aware of it, because you can obviously lose data, miss data, and if you're doing reporting, you can give some inaccurate reports. So important to always know if you have filters and what filters have been applied where. Another interesting thing we can do, if we have a field, let's say gender, for example, people are either male or female, so we don't want people to be entering anything besides male or female in this column here. We can actually create a drop-down menu. So what you can do is type a list of the various options that you want to be available here. You're then going to click on data, data validation. This window will appear. You're going to select the list option. You're then going to specify the source of the data. So there it is there, and click OK. Now what you'll see, let's clear that cell. We put in a person's name, we put in their surname. When we get here, we can select either male or female. This will also prevent you from manually typing something else in. It will give you an error and say that it doesn't match the list of available options. Okay. And then if we want to apply this drop-down menu to this entire column, what you can do is select the cell that it's already been applied to. Then you'll see this little black square at the bottom right. If you hover over it, you'll get a plus sign. You click and hold on that and drag it down. You will then see that this drop-down facility has been applied to all of these cells. Another thing that you can do is hide and unhide cells. So when creating a drop-down menu like that, for example, what some people like to do is use one of the other worksheets. So create sheet 2, call this sheet data. If you just right-click and select the rename option, and then you can use this for putting any data that you don't need to be visible, but you need for the functioning of the worksheet. That's one option. Or you can simply right-click on this column and say hide. You then won't be able to see it. You will notice a double line here between column J and L, which shows you that there is a hidden column there, and your drop down will continue to function as normal. But at least if you want to print this or show this to somebody, you don't have the messy data laying all over the place. So either really works well if you want to use a data sheet for all your calculations and data in the back end, or if you want to just hide the cells and use the same sheet. It's really a matter of preference. All right, that brings us to the end of Introduction for Beginners to Microsoft Excel. In the interest of keeping the videos digestible, I'm going to end it there. I am busy currently with part 2. Focus will be on if statements, formulas, and potentially VLOOKUPs.